He is a New York City council member who was elected auspiciously at the same time as Eric Adams. And look at how that turned out. Let's see how many bribery charges my guest has. Please welcome Ossé.
Thank you so much for having me on, Francesca.
Thank you for being here.
Zero bribery charges
that we know of for now. So it's so refreshing to have you on. I've been following you on Twitter and seeing, I think one of the first things I saw about you was, actually you talking with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez ahead of the 2024 election. It was an interesting interview. It was a good interview. And you were just kind of naming what the elephant in the room, which was Kamala Harris wasn't necessarily doing it for a lot of voters. And, again, I have my thoughts on who cares if she's doing it for you, but you were look at what we're in right now. But you've done a great job of also working with social media and all this. And as a young New York City council member, what's it like being in city council now? And ever since Mayor Eric Adams has been in office, because I want to talk to you because you seem like you actually talk about structural inequality. I'm curious your thoughts on, this massive pro-police propaganda that Eric Adams engages in. Yeah. But what has that been like for you, kind of being at this young, I'm assuming progressive elected at the same time that this corrupt ass mayor has been your boss, or were you, not your boss, but working with him?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. It's something that I deal with every single day because it's my job. I ran for office in the summer of 2020, at the height of the protests that took place in the wake of George Floyd's murder. And it felt on the streets like some change was going to happen. It inspired me to run for office, mainly to take aim at our bloated New York Police Department budget and reinvest some of those funds within some other agencies that provide safety within our communities. And I got elected, with a wave of progressives within New York City, but also something that we saw change within the political zeitgeist, not only of our city, state, but country, was that we were seeing this moderate wave of Democrats come in, right? Even after this protest movement came in. And Eric Adams got elected as kind of the mouthpiece of that movement. I remember, right. I'm forgetting which journalist, was it Nate Silver, who said Eric Adams is going to be the president in 4 years or some crazy shit like that. But Eric Adams was the bastion of this new movement of moderate energy. And it was really hard as a leftist, as a progressive, coming into politics with having, a president, governor of New York State, as well as a mayor of New York City, be these centrist corporate Democrats. And working within that structure, I had to get creative, right? I knew that some of my bills around housing, around public safety, around, a lot of these progressive ideals weren't going to move in these traditional ways. So I started utilizing social media as an organizing tool to advocate for economic populism. And people were listening to that. People have always been, craving, these issues, but I found a way to communicate them really well through this medium of social media. So even with Eric Adams, with his bribes and his shitty leadership, I've been able to usher through amazing legislation. Recently, we passed a bill that banned forced broker fees in New York City, beating the $1 million real estate lobby of New York. And that was done through these untraditional organizing tactics. So
I really wanted to ask you about that because here you are. I mean, looking amazing, obviously dressing for the occasion, because this is when that bill to eliminate broker fees, which are just automatic fees that are placed on renters, no matter whether they used a broker or not. They just sort of are this vestige. I lived in New York City for 7 years. I remember that. And here you are, and I love this.
We just voted to kill forced broker fees in New York City. I'm leaving City Hall right now where we just passed my bill, the FAIR Act, which requires that whoever hires a broker pays the fee. So tenants are done paying fees to brokers they never wanted nor hired for apartments they found themselves. The fight lasted over 1.5 years. We were up against the multi-million-dollar real estate lobby that threw everything against us, but the people were on our side. The passing of this bill proves that government can work and progressives deliver results for the people. Follow along for updates, but for now, just know we just changed New York forever.
And this just went into effect, Chi,
Yeah.
yesterday, I believe. But I'm trying to understand, like, how were you able to actually get this bill through? Because it's one thing to like motivate the people, but
Totally.
was this a ballot proposition, or did people just call their council members and to really push this through? How did you do it?
Yeah, it was actually more the latter point that you made, right? It was an inside and outside strategy. Like we used traditional political organizing where we reached out to multiple labor unions to get them to support this bill. We were having one-on-ones with as many of my council colleagues as I possibly could. Not all of them progressive, but I really needed to pitch to them that this was a bill that I believed to be common sense and would benefit their constituents. And even many of them were not there yet unless I had to show some energy from the outside. So
Right.
we made this bill a popular issue in New York City. Utilizing TikTok and Instagram Reels. We made several videos that went viral. We were the first politician that went on that show Subway Takes that
Yes.
you see on online. And we spoke about this issue where it became something in New York public consensus where individuals were calling their council members at unprecedented rates to pressure them to sign on to this bill. So with a mix of old school political organizing and new school political organizing, we got it past the finish line.
I mean, and I think it's really interesting because, you know, we now are at a time you see the police state basically come down on the people of Los Angeles and the people of the country. And I know, the people in New York City as well. And yet I remember having council member Tiffany Caban on my show live like years ago. And she was like, look, despite, the unpopularity of the police, despite all of the transgressions, the brutality, that it is so politically unpopular to even move money out of the cops or have imagine alternatives to safety. And so I find it interesting that it's like, sort of, all right, what's a different issue that is still so much of an economic justice, a racial justice issue? Obviously, housing is incredibly discriminatory. What is another, bill that feels that we can get sort of the political, establishment to, we're not going to have as much resistance, but at the same time, you had the real estate lobby. I mean, how the hell did city council not just get wined and dined to death until this bill wasn't passed?
Right. I mean, I think one of the provisions or issues that I'm really excited about is something that mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani is pushing through, and that's freezing the rent. This is something that is completely under the jurisdiction of the mayor of New York City. It's something that I've organized to do within my time in the council. And I'm really putting a lot of my efforts right now into getting that man elected because it needs to happen. It needs to show not only that progressives can lead, but it can lead towards some of these issues that are popular across political ideological lines, and that's affordability, right?
Let's play a little bit because yesterday, I mean, let's not talk. What we're here for really is to talk also about Zohran Mamdani's candidacy. He's surging in the polls. I have like my questions about and my fears, of course, of Cuomo. But we'll talk about it. But like. Early voting starts tomorrow. Is that correct? On a Saturday?
Yes.
So New Yorkers, you have a day off. Go vote. And it ends, I believe, what is it, the 23rd or 24th? Or when was the last day to vote?
On the 22nd.
22nd.
And then the 24th is election day.
Election day. Amazing. Okay. So you got to go in person the 24th. And canvassers are out. They're hitting the streets.
They really are.
I hear that for some reason there's a lot of hot people who are canvassing for Zohran. That's what the group chat is telling me.
I hear that too.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So last night there was, I believe, the second mayoral debate. And here's Mamdani just kind of like sticking it to Cuomo. This was probably one of the best moments. He didn't quite. I'll give my notes because I'm such an ass, but take a listen.
To Mr. Cuomo, I have never had to resign in disgrace. I have never cut Medicaid. I have never stolen hundreds of millions of dollars from the MTA. I have never hounded the 13 women who credibly accused me of sexual harassment. I have never sued for their gynecological records. And I have never done those things because I am not you, Mr. Cuomo. And furthermore, The name is Mamdani, Mamdani. You should learn how to say it because we got to get it right.
You should learn how to say it because I'm going to be the next
I
mayor.
think he was going to say that, but I think he was like,
I don't know. I don't want to.
I think I wish he did, but like maybe he didn't want to jinx it, you know?
Right. But you always have to say that. You got to project that. I mean,
Right.
that was just beautiful.
Yeah.
Because of course, we're talking about Cuomo, but I mean, maybe even like, I guess, no, let's talk about Cuomo. Like,
Yeah.
he's just Zohran's rattling off all of these things, these insane things. I mean, again, the sexual assault, I mean, and misconduct over here politically, whether it's being just the worst Democrat, open corruption, yes, the MTA, putting people from nursing homes back into their nursing homes when they had COVID, trying to cover that up. I mean, it's on and on and on with him, but this guy won't go away, and he represents so much of like corrupt Gotham. Like, he's so Gotham. But like, so tell me about, just what a challenge it is to try to get Cuomo out of here, and meaning don't rank him, don't get him elected.
I mean, Cuomo comes from a political dynasty, right? He is the ultimate political Nepo baby right outside of the Kennedys. His dad was governor, right? And when it comes to New York City elections, and that's where I think I have most of my expertise, a lot of older people of color are a large block of the voting base here in New York. I represent Bed-Stuy and Crown Heights, which is a gentrifying but predominantly Black neighborhood where a lot of the seniors who love me and have voted for me, love Cuomo because they love Mario Cuomo. They love seeing Cuomo on the TV. And, some of the, issues that he has, some of the problems that he has aren't really problems to them. So, when you have this loyal base of Democratic voters within New York City, it led to Cuomo thinking he had a chance to jump back into this race, and the polling said that. He has 100% name recognition. People still don't like him, but there's a lot of new faces in this race, and a lot of New Yorkers didn't start paying attention to the mayoral race until this past week. And sometimes they just vote for the name that they recognize, which is very unfortunate because he is a very unfortunate, disgraced governor and elected official. But I really do believe that the Mamdani campaign and the entire Don't Rank Cuomo campaign that has existed within the city has a real shot at retiring Cuomo once and for all.
What do you tell people when they say, okay, but I know Cuomo? I mean, and I think that's a really, it's just that. It's just, I know him. I know the name, right? What do you lead with when you talk about, is it talking about Cuomo, or is it talking about a chance at something so different?
Well, I think it's a mix of both. And, I as someone who represents a neighborhood that has seen a lot of displacement and gentrification, I point to the fact that he was governor for 10 years. A lot of these problems that we are experiencing, whether it be displacements, gentrification, mental illness that you see on the streets, these are the effects of 10 years of poor leadership. And then I point to new energy, someone who is not accepting money from billionaires and millionaires and MAGA donors, someone who's offering this platform of economic populism. This is something that we should turn to, right? How are we going to, and a lot of these voters who support Cuomo are anti-Trump, right? We're very pro-Kamala.
Of course.
We cannot, point towards Donald Trump and say that this man's a sexual harasser and this man is on a journey of vengeance, and then elect someone who has the same rap sheet. So I think that's been the messaging that I've been engaging with my constituents, especially the seniors, especially those who like Cuomo. It has been effective. I think they're still a little wary of a Democratic socialist just because of the S word. But I think the strategy right now is to not have them vote for Cuomo at all. And that would increase the chances of a Mamdani mayoralty.
Mamdani, who is surging in one new poll. I mean, there's a lot of polls that basically have Cuomo ahead, and we know it's ranked choice. I guess I want to ask you about just the ranked choice and the turnout. This is a primary. It's a Democratic primary. who generally turns out and who generally does not? And what does Mamdani need to win it in terms of turnout?
Yeah, so usually who turns out is older voters, right? Across racial lines, especially in some of the outer boroughs. The outer boroughs, elected Eric Adams 4 years ago. 25% of eligible Democratic voters voted in the last mayoral election. If we can bump that up to 33%, which I do believe is the strategy of the Mamdani campaign, we can beat Andrew Cuomo. As someone who utilizes social media often in my political organizing, seeing what the Mamdani campaign has been doing and engaging people, young and old, who have felt disengaged by the democratic process, especially within the primary process, I truly believe is going to put them over that finish line. There are young people, my cousins, who just turned 18 are registering to vote for Zohran Mamdani, right? There are so many people that I'm encountering who you would never guess are energized voters who are excited to show up to the polls on June 4th and elect this man to be mayor. And I don't believe that many of the polls that we're seeing, it's truth that they're not, calling unlikely voters like these new people who are registering to vote. And I think it's going to be an upset for the Cuomo campaign. Maybe I'm speaking too early, but I'm very excited about what the show of force is going to look like. I
also think that the fact that the progressive wing of candidates did not come together in 2021 to, decide who they were going to bolster and support, and kind of led to an Eric Adams, and everyone kind of went down through their own scandals and this and that. I think also is sort of another okay, this is our second time. It's ranked choice. We got this. We can figure out how to do this. And I know that Cuomo and Zohran and Brad Lander just
endorsed today,
co-endorse one another, which is great. I am also I'm someone who's seen ranked choice really almost is the operative word, but come incredibly close to ousting London Breed back in whatever it was, which was amazing. And it was because the progressives campaigned together. They really were we're 1 and 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Yeah.
And so I'm a little bit oh God, I think the Lander, Zohran thing has come late.
Yeah.
Right. So, but I am also just I agree with you that if the turnout can be, a lot of folks are who are more disengaged, may not even turn out anyway. But if you are engaged, and wanting to go out, that can be the difference versus a general when it's a lot of people just kind of to, and let's just talk about what it would mean. What are the programs of Zohran? Zohran's been on the show. Was he on the show? He was on the show. I've interviewed him many times. A couple times now.
I think he was on. I think my team just told me that before.
He was on Zateo. I know I interviewed him on Zateo, and I believe here as well. But he talked about free buses, freezing the rent. What does that mean to freeze the rent? Because I guess I just also wanted a name. I left New York in 2013. Earlier. Sorry, what am I talking about? 2007. I left New York in 2007.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I lived there from 2001, 2007. I left there, and when I sort of came back 10 years later and just to visit and whatnot, I was living out of the country. When in 2007, there were unhoused people. Rent was still high. It was bad. It was bad then. But the level of inequality, the pace of gentrification is something that in the last, whatever it is, 20 years is just remarkable. I had not seen anything like it. And actually, having come from also living in San Francisco, where there is a lot of inequality, that's very striking. New York was never at that level. And now New York is very much at that level. And it has everything to do with housing. So what is this idea to freeze rent?
Yeah, it's common sense. There is this mayoral board called the Rent Guidelines Board, which is filled with individuals who are appointed by the mayor. Former Mayor Bill de Blasio froze the rent I think he did it, 2 years under his tenure. the affordability crisis right now is out of control. The least that we could do in terms of being the least that the mayor could do in terms of being the leader of the city is freeze the rent for those who are truly bogged down by the cost of living crisis. And what I appreciate about the Mamdani campaign and what Zohran is pushing forward is it doesn't just end there, right? He also has a plan to address the housing shortage that we're seeing within the city, and building, 200,000 affordable homes. Also, open to private development within our city to address the 1.4 vacancy rate. This is an individual who is approaching our housing problem with a yes and approach, and that's why he has my endorsement, because this speaks to the very reason people are being displaced. People are being put on the street, and that people are feeling like New York City is not a home that's for them anymore. And I personally, as a native New Yorker, want a mayor who is going to take this issue very seriously, and he's the one who's doing it.
I love it. And I also think it's going to be an interesting test, and not the only test, but, I do think that we're in a time when, as we open this interview, you talked about centrist Democrats kind of not doing leadership. And we see that with Chuck Schumer of New York, who is, prefers the sort of like rollover, method.
He needs to go.
Yeah. No. And I love hearing you say that. And I think that it's interesting because it's also a sort of a referendum on, is the best defense to a true authoritarianism, is that best defense someone who wants to work with authoritarianism? Is it someone who runs their own kind of authoritarian like structures, like Cuomo did as governor? So like that, I think, is also like are Democrats ready to actually throw down with something new that actually will listen and respond to the people?
Yeah. I mean, I want a mayor who is not going to, first and foremost, Cuomo saying that he's going to work with the president, with Donald Trump, isn't even true. I don't even think he'll be able to do that. I think Donald Trump wants Eric Adams or Cuomo to win as mayor because he'll use the justice system as a tool to control them as puppets, right? I think we're already seeing that Cuomo has a looming, case right now that the judicial system wants to.
And like, why would you you're just gonna give yourself a new Eric Adams situation?
I mean, well, Andrew Cuomo is running to finish Eric Adams' second term, right? Like that's the issue at hand, and they're not even going to be able to work with Trump, right? They're puppets of Trump. But long story short, I mean, we need a mayor who will really stick it to the federal government. New York and New York City is an economic powerhouse. The amount of our tax dollars that supports the federal government is beyond, right? And we need executives who understand that and use that as a leverage point to push back against this current hostile administration. We don't need to work with them. We do not need to work with them. I didn't work with them. You know what I mean? And we fared well.
And I think Mamdani his response to this has been just so spot on. Like I am consistently surprised at how just how quick thinking and how on point he is under pressure. When he's asked, and maybe he was ready for this, question, but when he's asked about you're a socialist, so won't Trump hate you more? And Zohran's like, Trump hates any Democratic mayor. Yeah. And Trump is going to hate any Democrat. But who's going to stand up to him? Yeah. And I thought that was really, really apt because, we're in this time of monsters and you either there's no going halfway with them. Ossé, I want to give you, let you go. Thank you for your time. Number one, what are you doing for the next 10 days? I know people are locking in for the Zohran race. And if folks are listening in the New York City and they're in New York, how can they plug in?
Absolutely. So I'm also running for re-election, and we're going.
No big deal. You also have to be re-elected.
We're going to be doing a lot of partnerships with the Mamdani campaign and doing some poll site visibility. Early voting starts tomorrow, so we're looking for volunteers to just show up and hand out both my literature as well as the Mamdani campaign's literature. I really want to make sure my district goes to Zohran this year. Really want to make sure that no one in my district ranks Andrew Cuomo, and that's definitely a priority of mine. So if anyone listening is in New York City and wants to volunteer for Zohran's campaign, volunteer for my campaign, get us both past the finish line. But let's make sure that we elect Zohran as our next mayor.
Chi, Ossé, everybody, please also give Chi a follow here. Can you just drop your handle? Let us know what your handle is.
Of course, my Instagram's Chi Ossé, CHIOSSE, TikTok Chi4NYC, and my Twitter is Ossé Chi.
What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/bitchuation room. Do it.